Shalom, shalom. Today will be 1 Samuel 26 to the end, going all the way through 31. Chapter 26. The cat wants my coffee. Hold on. Let me fix this problem real quick. Come on, buddy. Yeah, there you go. All right. Chapter 26. We just left. Yeah, we literally just left off with David basically being like, hey, I could have ended your life, and I didn't. If you don't believe me, you're missing a tassel. You're missing a tzitzit. And Saul was basically like, oh man, you're way more righteous than I am. And you're definitely going to be the king one day. So, into 26. And the Ziphites came to Saul at Geba, saying, is not David concealing himself in the hill of Hakilah, overlooking the wasteland? And Saul rose up and went to the wilderness of Ziph, and with him 3,000 chosen men of Israel to seek David in the wilderness of Ziph. I don't know. I'm obviously time had to pass between each instant of this happening. It's just crazy. It's like, didn't you just do this? Didn't we just go out there and be like, hey, where you at? And he was like, I almost killed you. And you were like, oh, oops, sorry. My bad. Anyway. And Saul camped in the hill of Hakilah, overlooking the wasteland by the way, while David was dwelling in the wilderness. And he saw that Saul came after him into the wilderness. And David sent out spies and learned that Saul had indeed come. And David rose up and came to the place where Saul had encamped. And David saw the place where Saul lay, and Abner, son of Ner, the commander of the army. And Saul was laying within the enclosure with the people encamped all around him. And David spoke up and said to Abimelech the Hittite and to Abishai, son of Zeruiah, brother of Joab, saying, who does go down with me to Saul in the camp? And Abishai said, I go down with you. And David and Abishai came to the people by night, and saw Saul lying asleep within the camp, with his spear stuck in the ground by his head, and Abner and the people lay all around him. And Abishai said to David, Elohim has surrendered your enemy into your hand this day. And now, please, let me strike him at once with the spear, right into the earth, and not a second time. And David said to Abishai, do not destroy him, for who shall stretch out his hand against the anointed of Yahuwah and be guiltless? David also said, as Yahuwah lives, except Yahuwah... Sorry, the cat is wanting to be crazy right now. David also said, as Yahuwah lives, except Yahuwah does smite him, or his day come that he shall die, or he shall go out to battle and perish. Far be it from me by Yahuwah that I stretch out my hand against the anointed of Yahuwah. And now, please take the spear and the jug of water that are by his head, and let us go. So David took the spear and the jug of water by Saul's head, and they went away. And no man saw it, or knew it, or awoke, for they were all asleep, because a deep sleep from Yahuwah had fallen on them. And David passed over to the other side, and stood on the top of a hill far away, a great distance being between them. And David called out to the people, to Abner, son of Ner, saying, do you not answer, Abner? And Abner answered and said, who are you, calling out to the sovereign? And David said to Abner, are you not a man? And who is like you in Israel? Why then have you not guarded your master the sovereign? For one of the people came in to destroy your master the sovereign. What you have done is not good. As Yahuwah lives, you are worthy to die, because you have not guarded your master, the anointed of Yahuwah. And now see where the sovereign's spear is, and the jug of water was by his head. And Saul recognized David's voice, and said, is that your voice, my son David? And David said, it is my voice, my master, O sovereign. And he said, Why is this that my master is pursuing his servant? For what have I done? Or what evil is in my hand? And now, please, let my master the sovereign hear the words of his servant. If Yahweh has moved you against me, let him accept an offering. But if it is the children of men, then they are accursed. Then they are cursed before Yahweh. For they have driven me out today, that I should not join myself to the inheritance of Yahweh, saying, Go, serve other mighty ones. And now, do not let my blood fall to the earth before the face of Yahweh. For the sovereign of Israel has come out to seek a flea, as when one hunts a partridge in the mountains. And Saul said, I have sinned. Come back, my son David, for no more am I going to do evil to you, because my life was precious in your eyes today. See, I have acted foolishly and have greatly strayed. At this point in time, me personally, I'm not gonna go hang out with you. You first off, you lied. Like you've clearly bent your knee to the people. You've thrown a spear at me on more than one occasion. You've come out of the wilderness twice now, and each time you've been like, "Oh, I pooped the bed. Sorry, I'm not going anywhere with you, bro. You're gonna go out. You're gonna have to go away. I'm not touching you with a 10-foot pole." And David answered and said, See the sovereign spear, and let one of the young men come over and get it. And let Yahweh reward every man for his righteousness and his trustworthiness. For this day Yahweh gave you into my hand, but I would not stretch out my hand against the anointed of Yahweh. And see, as your life has been valued in my eyes today, so let my life be valued in the eyes of Yahweh. And let him deliver me out of all distress. And Saul said to David, Blessed are you, my son David, achieving much, and indeed prevailing. Then David went on his way, and Saul returned to his place. And David said in his heart, Now I shall perish by the hand of Saul some day. There is naught better for me than to escape to the land of the Philistines. Then Saul shall give up searching for me any longer in any part of Israel, and I shall escape out of his hand. So David rose up and passed over with the 600 men who were with him to Achish, son of Maoch, sovereign of Gath. And David dwelt with Achish at Gath, he and his men, each man with his household, David with his 2 wives, Ahinoam the Israelites, and Abigail the Carmelitess, Nabal's widow. And it was reported to Saul that David had fled to Gath, so he sought him no more. And David said to Achish, If I have now found favor in your eyes, let them give me a place in some town in the country to dwell there. For why should your servant dwell in the royal city with you? And Achish gave him Siklag that day. That is why Siklag has belonged to the sovereigns of Yehudah to this day. And the time that David dwelt in the country of the Philistines came to be a year and 4 new moons. And David and his men went up and raided the Gershites and the Girzites and the Amalekites, for those nations were the inhabitants of the land from of old, as you go to Shur, even as far as the land of Mitzrayim. And when David had stricken the land, he left neither man nor woman alive, but took away sheep and cattle and donkeys and camels and garments, and returned and came to Achish. And Achish would say, Where have you made a raid today? And David would say, Against the south of Yehudah, or against the south of the Yermalites, or against the south of Canaanites. David did not keep alive man nor woman to bring news to Gath, saying, lest they inform against us, saying, Thus David did. And this was the practice all the days that he dwelt in the country of the Philistines. And Achish trusted David, saying to himself, He has indeed made himself a stench to his people in Israel, and has become my servant forever. And it came to be in those days that the Philistines gathered their armies for battle, to fight with Israel. And Achish said to David, You know, of course, that you are to go out with me in the army, you and your men. And David said to Achish, Very well, you shall know that your servant should do. You shall know what your servant should do. And Achish said to David, Very well, I make you one of my chief guardians forever. And Samuel had died, and all Israel had mourned for him, and buried him in Ramah, in his own city. And Saul had put away the mediums and the spiritists from the land. Wow! And the Philistines were gathered, and came and encamped at Shunem. And Saul gathered all Israel, and encamped Gilboa. And when Saul saw the army of the Philistines, he was afraid, and his heart trembled greatly. And Saul inquired of Yahweh, but Yahweh did not answer him, either by dreams, or by Urim, or by the prophets. It's a pretty scary thought. Saul then said to his servants, Find me a woman who is a medium, to go to her and inquire for her. And his servant said to him, Look, there's a woman who is a medium at Endor. And Saul disguised himself, and put on other garments, and went, he and 2 men with him. And they came to the woman by night. And he said, Please divine for me, and bring up for me the one I shall name. Just sad. Just sad. But the woman said to him, Look, you know what Saul has done, how he has cut off the mediums and the spiritists from the land. Why then do you lay a snare for my life, to put me to death? And Saul swore by her, and Saul swore to her by Yahweh, saying, As Yahweh lives, no punishment comes upon you for this matter. And the woman said, Whom do I bring up for you? So she said, Bring up Samuel for me. We're calling up the dead. We don't do that. We don't do that. What is wrong with you? And when the woman saw Samuel, she cried out with a loud voice. And when the woman spoke to Saul, saying, Why have you deceived me? You yourself are Saul. And the sovereign said to her, Do not be afraid. What did you see? And the woman said to Saul, I saw a spirit coming up out of the earth. And he said to her, What is his form? And she said, An old man is coming up, and he is covered with a mantle. And Saul knew that it was Samuel. And he bowed his face to the ground and did obeisance. And Samuel said to Saul, Why have you disturbed me by bringing me up? And Saul answered, I am deeply distressed, for the Philistines are fighting against me, and Elohim has turned aside from me and does not answer me any more, neither by prophet nor by dreams. So I have called you to reveal to me what I should do. I wonder why he's not talking to you. Look at what you're doing. Then Samuel said, And why do you ask me, seeing Yahweh has turned aside from you and has become your enemy? And Yahweh has done for himself as he spoke by me. For Yahweh has torn the rein out of your hand and given it to your neighbor, to David, because you did not obey the voice of Yahweh, nor execute his burning wrath upon Amalek. Therefore Yahweh has done this matter to you today. You didn't listen. You didn't do the things that he said to do. So he's not going to talk to you. Further, Yahweh also gives Israel with you into the hand of the Philistines. And tomorrow, you and your sons are with me. That's a dead man talking to him. That's a dead man talking to you. Y'all are going to be with me tomorrow. Yahweh also gives the army of Israel into the hand of the Philistines. And immediately Saul fell on the ground, his complete length, and greatly feared because of the words of Samuel. And there was no strength in him, for he had eaten no food all day or all night. So he was fasting. He was doing his best. I was doing everything I got, man. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you were just calling out in your time of need instead of trying to be there the whole time with him. Sorry. And the woman came to Saul and saw that he had been greatly disturbed, and said to him, See, your female servant has obeyed your voice, and I have put my life in my hands, and have listened to the words which you spoke to me. And now please listen to the voice of your female servant too, and let me set a piece of bread before you, and eat, so that you have strength when you go on your way. But he refused, and said, I am not going to eat. But his servants, together with the woman, urged him, and he listened to their voice. So he rose from the ground and sat on the bed. And the woman had a fatted calf in the house, and she quickly slaughtered it, and she took flour and kneaded it, and baked unleavened bread from it. And she brought it before Saul and his servants, and they ate and rose up and went away that night. And the Philistines gathered all their armies at Aphek, while Israel encamped by a mountain which is in Yisrael. Israel. And the princes of the Philistines were passing on by hundreds and by thousands, and David and his men were passing on in the rear with Achish. And the princes of the Philistines said, Who are these Hebrews? And Achish said to the princes of the Philistines, Is this not David, the servant of Saul, sovereign of Israel, who has been with me these days, or these years? And to this day I have found no evil in him since he came over. But the princes of the Philistines were wroth with him, and the princes of the Philistines said to him, Send the man back, let him return to the place which you have appointed for him, and do not let him go down with us to battle, lest in the battle he become our adversary. For with what could he appease his master, if not with the heads of these men? Is this not David of whom they sang to each Is this not David, of whom they sang to each other in dances, saying, Saul struck his thousands, and David his 10,000s? And Achish called David and said to him, As Yahuwah lives, you have been straight, and your going out and your coming in with me and the army is good in my eyes. For to this day I have not found evil in you since the day of your coming to me. But in the eyes of the princes you are not good. And now return, and go in peace, and do no evil in the eyes of the princes of the Philistines. And David said to Achish, But what have I done? And to this day what have you found in your servant as long as I have been with you, that I should not go and fight against the enemies of my master, the sovereign? But Achish answered and said to David, I know that you are good in my eyes, as a messenger of Elohim. But the princes of the Philistines have said, Let him not go up with us to the battle. And now, rise early in the morning with your master's servants who have come with you, and as soon as you are up early in the morning and have light, then go. And David and his men rose up early to go in the morning and returned to the land of the Philistines, and the Philistines went up to Yisrael. To be fair, it's probably best that David isn't there, because exactly what they fear probably would have happened the moment that Saul dies. The moment that Saul and his kids are dead, David probably would have lost it. They would have probably absolutely lost it. And it came to be, when David and his men came to Sigh on the third day, that the Amalekites had invaded the south of Sigh and struck Sigh and burned it with fire. And they took captive the women and those who were there, from small to great. They did not kill anyone, but they had led them away and went their way. And David and his men came to the city and saw it burn with fire, and their wives and their sons and their daughters had been taken captive. But David and the people who were with him lifted up their voices and wept until they had no more power to weep. And David's two wives, Ahinoam, the Israelite, and Abigail, the widow of Nabal, the Carmelite, had been taken captive. And David was greatly distressed, for the people spoke of stoning him, because the being of all the people was grieved, each of his sons and his daughters. But David strengthened himself in Yahuwah his Elohim. And David said to Abiathar the priest, son of Abimelech, Please bring the shoulder garment here to me. So Abiathar brought the shoulder garment to David, and David inquired of Yahweh, saying, Do I pursue this band? Do I overtake them? And he answered him, Pursue, for you shall certainly overtake them, and certainly rescue. I, obviously it doesn't tell us. Maybe somewhere else it does, but at this point in time, I don't know how I feel about him being like, go get that shoulder garment. We got to talk to the shoulder garment so we can talk to God. At least that's what it feels like he's doing. I don't know. What do I know, right? We don't have all the details, but this doesn't look promising. Yeah, Dad spoke to him, but it doesn't. This feels like it has the capability to lead to idolatry, where we're gonna end up just like we were in Joshua, where we've got a big beautiful breastplate that everybody gets tripped over. Anyway, yep. So David went, he and the 600 men who were with him, and came to the Wadi Besor, the dry riverbed, where a halt was made by those who were left behind. While David pursued, he and 400 men, for 200 halted, who were too faint to pass over the Wadi Besor. And they found a man in the field, a Mitzrite, and took him to David, and they gave him bread, and he ate, and they let him drink water. I gave him a piece of cake of figs and 2 clusters of raisins, and when he had eaten, his strength came back to him, for he had not eaten bread nor drunk water for 3 days and 3 nights. And David said to him, To whom do you belong, and where are you from? And he said, I am a young man from Mitzrayim, servant of an Amalekite, and my master left me behind, for I had been sick 3 days. We attacked the south of the Kerethites, and against that which belongs to Yehudah, and upon the south of Caleb, and we burned Sigh with fire. And David said to him, Could you bring me down to the marauding band? And he said, Swear to me by Elohim that you neither kill me nor surrender me into the hand of my master. Then I bring you down to the marauding band. And he brought him down, and saw that they were spread out over all the land, eating and drinking and celebrating because of the great spoil which they had taken from the land of the Philistines and from the land of Yehudah. And David struck them from twilight until evening the next day, and arose, and none of them escaped, except 400 young men who rode on camels and fled. And David rescued all that the Amalekites had taken. David also rescued his 2 wives. And there was none missing to them, whether small or great, whether sons or daughters, or spoil, or whatever they had taken from them. David recovered all. Besides, David captured all the flocks and herds they had driven before those livestock, and they said, This is David's spoil. And David came to the 200 men who were too faint to follow David, who had also been left at the Wadi Besor, and they went out to meet David and to meet the people who were with him. And when David came near to the people, he greeted them. And all the evil and worthless men of those who went with David answered and said, Because they did not go with us, we do not give them any of the spoil that we have rescued, except for every man's wife and children, and let them take them and go. But David said, My brothers, do not do so with what Yahweh has given us. Who has protected us and given into our hand the band that came against us? And who would listen to you in this matter? For as his portion is who goes down to the battle, so is his portion who remains with the baggage. They share alike. And it came to be, from that day forward, he appointed it for a law and a right ruling for Israel to this day. And when David came to Sigh, he sent home of the spoil to the elders of Yehudah, to his friends, saying, Here is a present for you from the spoil of the enemies of Yahweh. To those in Bethel, and to those in Ramoth to the south, and to those in Yatir, and to those in Aurora, and to those in Shifmoth, and to those in Eshtemoa, and to those in Rakal, and to those in the cities of the Yermalites, and to those in the cities of the Canaanites, and to those in Hormah, and to those in Karshan, and to those in Athak, and to those in Hebron, and to all the places where David had gone up and down, he and his men. And the Philistines were fighting against Israel, and the men of Israel fled from before the Philistines and fell slain on Mount Gilboa. And the Philistines followed hard after Saul and his sons. And the Philistines struck Jonathan and Abinadab and Malchishua, sons of Saul. It really sucks that Jonathan died. And the battle went hard against Saul, and the archers hit him, so that he was severely wounded by the archers. And Saul said to his armor-bearer, "Draw your sword and thrust me through with it, lest the uncircumcised men come and thrust me through and roll themselves on me." But his armor-bearer would not, for he was greatly afraid. So Saul took the sword and fell on it. And when his armor-bearer saw that Saul was dead, he also fell on his sword and died with him. Thus Saul died, and 3 of his sons, and his armor-bearer, also all his men together on that day. And they saw the men of Israel who were beyond the valley, and those who were beyond the Jordan, that the men of Israel had fled, and that Saul and his sons were dead. So they forsook the cities and fled, and the Philistines came and dwelt in them. And the next day it came to be, when the Philistines came to strip the slain, they found Saul and his 3 sons fallen on Mount Gilboa. And they cut off his head and stripped off his armor, and sent word throughout the land of the Philistines to announce it in the house of their idols and to the people. And they placed his armor in the house of the Ashtaroth, and they fastened his body to the wall in Beth Shan. And the inhabitants of Yabesh Galad heard that what the Philistines had done to Saul, and all the brave men arose and went all night and took the body of Saul and the bodies of his sons from the wall of Beth Shan, and they came to Yabesh and buried them there. And they took their bones and buried them under the tamarisk tree at Yabesh, and fasted for 7 days. That's the end of 1 Samuel. And that is the end of Saul. I suppose with that, I would officially make David king now. So, all right. Well, tomorrow we'll get right up into 2 Samuel. And we'll just power through it like we've been doing. As always, may Yahuwah bless you and guard you. Yahuwah make his face shine upon you and show favor to you. Yahuwah lift up his face upon you and give you peace. Thus they shall put my name on the children of Israel, and I myself shall bless them. Shalom, shalom.